Emma Chen pressed her face against the viewing window of the transport shuttle. Below her, the Carthaxian diplomatic station gleamed like a massive metal flower in the darkness of space. Proxima Centauri b hung in the distance, a reddish world that looked nothing like Earth. She still could not believe she was here, so far from home, about to start a job teaching aliens how to stretch and breathe. The transport docked with a soft thump. Emma grabbed her bags and stepped into the station. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth normal, and the air smelled like copper and something she could not name. Her guide, a young human diplomat named Marcus, waited by the airlock. "Welcome to the edge of human space," Marcus said with a tired smile. "Ready to meet our neighbors?" Emma nodded. She had seen pictures of the Carthaxians, but nothing prepared her for the reality. The first one she saw was nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales, with yellow eyes that seemed to glow. Its body was thick with muscle, and it moved with frightening grace. The creature wore what looked like military armor, even here in the diplomatic quarter. "They are always like that," Marcus whispered, noticing her stare. "Warriors, every single one of them. Been that way for thousands of years." The human embassy was small but comfortable. Emma's quarters were modest, just a bedroom and bathroom, but the window showed a stunning view of the stars. Her workspace was in the recreation facility, a large room with mats, weights, and equipment from Earth. She spent the first day setting up her yoga mats and organizing her teaching materials. On the second day, Ambassador Crixtha came to visit. The Carthaxian was smaller than the guards, perhaps only 7 feet tall, with lighter green scales and a softer voice. Emma had to look up to meet those yellow eyes. "You are the wellness instructor," Crixtha said. It was not a question. The translator device on the ambassador's collar turned the hissing sounds into English. "Yes, Ambassador. I teach yoga, meditation, and stress relief techniques." Crixtha's head tilted to one side, a gesture Emma would learn meant curiosity. "Stress relief. This is a human concern?" "All species feel stress," Emma replied. "I help people manage it through movement and breathing." The ambassador seemed to consider this. "I have younglings. Cubs, you would say. They train in the station nursery with other diplomatic families' children." Emma smiled. "How old are they?" 4 and 6 cycles. They train for 6 hours each day in combat preparation." Emma's smile faltered. 6 hours? But they are so young." "It is our way, but lately I have noticed something." Crixtha's voice dropped lower. "They are anxious, aggressive with each other. The instructors say this is normal, but I am not certain." Over the next week, Emma caught glimpses of the nursery through the clear walls that separated the human and Carthaxian sections. The cubs were smaller versions of the adults, with brighter scales and bigger eyes. They moved through what looked like brutal training exercises, striking padded targets and wrestling with each other. But Emma also saw moments when they sat alone, their small bodies tense, their eyes distant. One cub in particular caught her attention. It sat apart from the others during rest periods, its tiny claws digging into the floor. Emma recognized that posture. She had seen it in stressed children back on Earth. She found Ambassador Crixtha in the diplomatic lounge the following evening. "Your cubs," Emma began carefully. "The training might be too intense. Their bodies are developing. Too much stress can harm them." Crixtha's scales rippled, a sign of emotion Emma did not yet understand. "What would you suggest?" "Let me teach them some simple exercises. Gentle movements, breathing techniques, things to help them calm down and build body awareness." The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. "You would do this? Teach Carthaxian young?" "Of course. Children are children no matter what species." 2 days later, Emma stood outside the nursery with her yoga mat under her arm. The nursery coordinator, a massive Carthaxian with scars across its snout, looked at her with obvious doubt. "The ambassador has approved this," the coordinator growled, "but I will watch. If the human harms any cub, this ends immediately." "I would never hurt them," Emma said firmly. The nursery fell silent when she entered. 20 pairs of yellow eyes fixed on her. The cubs ranged from waist-high to chest-high on Emma, and every single one looked like it could tear her apart despite being children. But Emma had worked with difficult kids before. She smiled and sat down on her mat. "Hello, everyone. My name is Emma. I am going to show you some special movements from Earth." The cubs looked at each other, then at their coordinator. One brave cub, smaller than the others, crept closer. "Will it hurt?" the cub asked. Its voice was surprisingly soft. "No, sweetheart. It feels good. It helps you feel calm and strong." Emma patted the floor beside her mat. "Come sit with me." The small cub sat. Then another approached. Then 2 more. Within minutes, Emma was surrounded by curious young Carthaxians, their scales rustling as they settled around her. "First, we learn to breathe," Emma said. She placed her hand on her belly. "Air goes in deep all the way down here, then out slowly." She demonstrated, breathing deeply and slowly. The cubs watched with intense focus. One tried to copy her, its small chest expanding. "Good. That is very good. Now everyone try together." 20 cubs breathed with her, their movements synchronized. Emma saw their bodies begin to relax, the tension leaving their small frames. "Now we are going to make some shapes with our bodies," Emma continued. She moved into child's pose, kneeling with her forehead on the mat, arms stretched forward. "This is called resting pose. It feels safe and quiet." The cubs copied her, their natural flexibility making the pose easy. The nursery filled with the sound of steady breathing. From the doorway, the coordinator watched. The human was doing something strange, making the cubs lie on the floor and breathe slowly. But there was something else happening too. The cubs looked peaceful for the first time in weeks. Ambassador HFY appeared beside the coordinator. Together, they watched Emma guide the younglings through simple poses, her voice gentle and encouraging. "Perhaps," HFY said quietly, "humans know something about strength that we have forgotten." The coordinator said nothing, but its scales rippled thoughtfully. Emma did not notice the adults watching. She was focused on the small cub who had approached first, the one who had been sitting alone for so many days. The cub was smiling now, its tail swishing happily as it held a pose Emma called mountain position. "You are doing so well," Emma told it. "How do you feel?" "Light," the cub said, searching for the word. "I feel light inside." Emma's heart swelled. This was why she did this work. This moment right here made everything worth it. She had no idea that above her, in the security office, Elite Guard Captain Vornax was watching the same scene on a monitor. And unlike the nursery coordinator, Vornax was not seeing a gentle wellness lesson. He was seeing something else entirely. Captain Vornax of the Elite Guard had been watching surveillance feeds for 12 years. He knew what combat training looked like. He knew aggressive postures, defensive stances, and tactical positioning. And as he watched the human instructor work with the cubs, every instinct in his body screamed that he was witnessing something dangerous. The human called it yoga. The translation came through clearly enough, but the positions she taught the cubs were unmistakable to Vornax's trained eye. "Warrior pose," the human said, demonstrating. She stood with legs spread wide, one knee bent, arms extended to both sides. Her face was calm, but her body formed a perfect combat stance. Low center of gravity, balanced weight distribution, arms ready to strike or defend. The cubs copied her, their young bodies settling into the position naturally. Feel the strength in your legs, the human continued. Breathe steadily. Hold this position. Vornax leaned closer to the screen. She was teaching them endurance, making them hold uncomfortable positions until their muscles burned. That was advanced training, the kind usually reserved for older warriors. The next exercise made his scales stand on end. Now we move into downward dog, the human said. She placed her hands on the floor, raised her hips high, and formed a triangle shape with her body. This stretches the whole backside of your body. A ground combat position, perfect for transitioning into a roll or spring attack. The human moved smoothly from downward dog into something she called plank, her body straight and rigid, held up by arms and toes alone. Hold it, she told the cubs. Breathe through the shaking. You are stronger than you think. Pain tolerance training. Vornax made a note in his report log. Over the next 2 weeks, Emma's classes became the highlight of the cubs' day. They rushed to the nursery early, eager to roll out the soft mats the human had brought. She taught them new poses with strange names: tree, crow, cobra, pigeon. Each class ended with the cubs lying flat on their backs, eyes closed, while Emma spoke in a soft voice about being calm and present. The cubs loved her. They chattered about the humans' class during meals. They practiced poses during free time. Several asked their parents if the human could teach them more. Ambassador Crixthaw was delighted. The cubs were calmer, more focused, and the aggressive incidents had dropped to almost nothing. The other diplomatic families began asking if their younglings could join Emma's classes. Emma expanded to 3 classes a day, teaching groups of 15 cubs each time. She was exhausted but happy. The younglings were wonderful students, far more flexible than human children, and their enthusiasm was infectious. You are a natural teacher, Crixtha told her after observing a class. The cubs adore you. They are amazing, Emma said, watching the younglings practice their poses. So dedicated and focused. I have never had students this committed. What Emma did not know was that her success had attracted attention from the military levels of the station. Guard Commander Thexil studied Vornax's report with growing concern. The human had been conducting unsanctioned training for 27 days. 68 cubs were now participating, and the exercises were becoming more advanced. Show me again, Thexil ordered. Vornax pulled up the latest feed. The human was teaching something called the crow pose. She crouched low, placed her hands on the floor, and somehow lifted her entire body into the air, balanced on just her hands. Her knees rested against her elbows, and she held the position with perfect stillness. A stealth position, Vornax explained. Low profile, complete body control, ready to spring in any direction. The cubs attempted the pose. Most fell over, but several managed to balance for a few seconds. The human praised them enthusiastically. And this one. Vornax switched to another recording. The human stood on one leg, bent forward at the waist, and extended her other leg straight back behind her. Her arms stretched forward. Her body formed a perfect straight line parallel to the floor. Zero visibility profile from the side, Vornax said. Perfect balance training for unstable surfaces. Thexil's tail lashed back and forth, a sign of agitation. Why would humans teach this to children? Their own species is weak. Everyone knows this. Perhaps, Vornax said slowly, we have underestimated them. Perhaps their weakness is camouflage. The commander considered this. Humans had been part of the galactic community for only 3 years. They were small, soft-skinned, fragile. They had no natural weapons, no armor, poor senses compared to most species. Every assessment had concluded that humans were physically inferior. But what if that was exactly what they wanted everyone to think? The human has begun teaching adults now, Vornax continued. Several cubs' parents requested private sessions. She agreed. Show me. The recording showed Emma teaching Ambassador Crixtha and 3 other Carthaxian adults. They moved through the poses slowly, their large bodies struggling with movements that seemed effortless for the human. Watch here, Vornax said, highlighting a moment. Emma moved from one pose to another in a smooth flow, each position transitioning seamlessly. She calls this vinyasa. It is a continuous combat sequence. Each position flows into the next with no wasted movement. Thexil watched the small human move with grace and control. Her breathing never changed. Her expression remained peaceful. She looked completely relaxed while demonstrating techniques that had his warriors sweating and shaking. How many Carthaxians are training with her now? Thexil asked. 68 cubs, 11 adults, and the number grows daily. She has scheduled evening classes. Many are interested. The commander made a decision. Request a meeting with the human. Tell her the elite guard wishes to learn her training methods. Vornax's eyes widened. Sir, if she is operating covertly, revealing our knowledge might... If she is training our civilians, we need to understand the system. If it is truly a human combat form, our warriors must learn it. Thexil stood. Besides, if we train with her, we can assess the real purpose of these techniques. Make the request seem friendly. Tell her we admire her work with the younglings and want to improve our own flexibility for combat purposes. And if she refuses, then we will know this is a covert operation. The request reached Emma through Marcus, the young diplomat. The elite guard wants to do yoga with you? Emma repeated, making sure she heard correctly. That is what they said. Something about combat flexibility and admiring your work with the kids. Marcus shrugged. Weird, but hey, more students, right? Emma beamed. That is wonderful. If the guards do it, maybe more adults will feel comfortable joining. This is great for breaking down cultural barriers. Marcus looked uncertain. Emma, these are the elite guard. They are not exactly the yoga type. Everyone is the yoga type, Emma said confidently. They just do not know it yet. When do they want to start? Tomorrow, dawn cycle. Perfect. I will prepare a special warrior flow sequence. Since they are soldiers, they will probably like the more dynamic poses. Marcus left, shaking his head. Emma spent the evening planning the perfect class for a group of elite warriors. She would show them that true strength came from balance, flexibility, and breath control. She could not wait to see their faces when they discovered how challenging yoga could be. In the guard barracks, 20 of the finest Carthaxian warriors prepared for what they believed would be the most important training of their careers. They would learn the secret human combat system. They would prove themselves capable of mastering it. None of them suspected they were about to face the most humbling experience of their military lives. Emma arrived at the training hall early the next morning with her arms full of yoga mats. The space was huge, designed for Carthaxian combat drills, with high ceilings and padded floors. 20 elite guards stood in perfect formation, wearing what looked like ceremonial combat armor, all scales polished and weapons displayed at their sides. She stopped in the doorway, suddenly aware of how small she was compared to them. "Good morning," she called out, forcing cheer into her voice. "You can leave the armor and weapons at the side. We will not need them." The guards looked at each other. Captain Vornax stepped forward. "Instructor Emma, we are prepared to begin training." "Great, but seriously, the armor has to go. You need to move freely." Emma started unrolling mats. "And you can call me just Emma." Slowly, reluctantly, the guards removed their armor. Underneath, they wore simple training clothes. Without the armor, they looked slightly less intimidating, though each one was still massive and clearly built for violence. Emma smiled at them. "Everyone grab a mat and spread out. Give yourself plenty of space." They arranged themselves with military precision, exact spacing between each warrior. Emma took her position at the front, suddenly aware that 20 of the most dangerous beings on the station were watching her every move. Okay, we will start with sun salutations. This is a warm-up sequence that gets the body ready. Watch me first, then we will do it together. Emma moved through the sequence smoothly. She raised her arms overhead, folded forward to touch her toes, stepped back into plank position, lowered into a push-up, flowed into upward dog, then pressed back into downward dog. The whole sequence took maybe 30 seconds. Now you try. Follow my movements. The guards attempted to copy her. Immediately, problems appeared. Their muscular bodies did not bend easily. When they tried to touch their toes, most could only reach their knees. The downward dog position made several of them shake violently. Keep breathing, Emma encouraged. Do not hold your breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. They continued. By the third sun salutation, several guards were breathing hard. By the fifth, one had to stop and rest. Emma was barely warmed up. Good. Now we will hold some poses. Let's start with Warrior 2. She demonstrated the wide-legged stance with arms extended. The guards moved into position. This felt more natural to them. It was similar to combat stances they knew. Now hold it. Keep breathing. Feel the burn in your front leg. That is good. Hold it. 30 seconds passed. The guards' arms began to shake. Their breaths came harder. 30 more seconds. You are doing great. One guard's arms dropped. Then another. By the time Emma counted down to 0, half the group had broken the pose. That was... Vornak started, then stopped. He was breathing hard, scales glistening. Challenging. That is just the beginning, Emma said brightly. Now let us try tree pose. This is for balance. She stood on one leg, placed her other foot against her inner thigh, and brought her hands together above her head. She stood perfectly still, breathing calmly. The guards tried to copy her. It was a disaster. Carthaxians had heavy tails that helped with balance normally, but the pose required balancing in a way their bodies were not designed for. They wobbled, fell, crashed into each other. One guard's tail knocked over 3 others like dominoes. Emma tried not to laugh. It is okay. This takes practice. Try focusing on one spot on the wall. That helps. They tried again. A few managed to balance for several seconds before toppling. The class continued. Emma led them through poses that were easy for human children, but nearly impossible for these massive warriors. Pigeon pose made them groan in pain. Boat pose made their core muscles scream. When she asked them to try crow pose, balancing the entire body on just the hands, not a single guard could do it. How? One guard demanded, frustrated. Your arms are tiny. How do you hold yourself up? It is not about strength, Emma explained. It is about weight distribution and technique. See? Like this. She demonstrated again, floating effortlessly into the pose. They tried. They all fell on their faces. By the end of the hour-long session, 20 elite guards lay on their backs on their mats, breathing hard, covered in sweat. Emma sat in a peaceful cross-legged position, completely composed. That was an excellent first session, she said. You should be proud. These poses are difficult when you first start. Vornak sat up slowly. Every muscle hurt. He had fought in 3 wars, survived combat with 6 different species, and earned the highest marks in weapons training. But this small human had just defeated him without throwing a single punch. You do this every day? He asked. Usually twice a day, Emma said. Sometimes 3 times. The guard stared at her with new respect and a little fear. We will return tomorrow, Vornak said. It was not a question. I will be here, Emma smiled. You did really well for your first time. By next week, you will already feel so much stronger and more flexible. As the guards limped out of the training hall, Emma packed up her mats, pleased with how the session had gone. They were stiff and inflexible, but that was normal for beginners. She would have them feeling better in no time. Behind the observation window, High Commander Zarix watched it all with growing alarm. He had witnessed 20 of his finest warriors reduced to exhausted, shaking messes by a human female who weighed maybe 1/10 of what they did. And she had done it without even breathing hard. "Get me everything we have on human combat systems," he ordered his aide. "Everything." "Sir, humans are not known for physical combat. They are a non-warrior species." "Then explain what I just watched," Zarix growled. "That was not exercise. That was a demonstration of superiority." The aide hesitated. "The guards want to continue training with her." "Of course they do. Pride demands it." Zarix's tail lashed. "But I want answers. If this is their basic training, what are their advanced techniques? And why are they sharing this with us?" "Perhaps they are simply being helpful." "Nothing in the galaxy is free," Zarix said. "Contact Ambassador HFY. I want to speak with this human directly." The message reached Emma that evening. High Commander Zarix requested a meeting to discuss her training program. Emma was delighted. If the High Commander was interested, maybe she could get proper funding and a bigger space. This was turning out even better than she had hoped. She prepared a presentation about the benefits of yoga, printed out scientific studies from Earth about flexibility and stress reduction, and even made a small poster showing the basic poses with their names. She had no idea she was about to walk into the most confusing conversation of her life. High Commander Zarix's office was intimidating. The walls were covered with weapons from different worlds, battle honors, and what looked like pieces of armor with blast marks and claw scratches. The commander himself sat behind a massive desk, his dark scales marked with the pale scars of countless fights. 2 guards flanked the door. Emma walked in with her presentation folder and her cheerful poster, feeling very small. "Instructor Emma," Zarix said. His voice was deep and rough. "Sit." Emma sat in the chair across from his desk. It was sized for Carthaxians, so her feet did not quite touch the floor. She set her folder on the desk. "Thank you for meeting with me, Commander. I wanted to share some information about the yoga program." "I watched your session with my elite guard," Zarix interrupted. "I watched them fail at techniques that younglings can perform. Explain this." Emma blinked. "Well, children are naturally more flexible. Adults tend to be stiffer, especially if they have not done this kind of movement before. But with practice, why do you teach these techniques to children? Because it is good for them? It helps with flexibility, body awareness, and emotional regulation. Studies show that children who practice yoga have better focus and emotional regulation." Zarix leaned forward. "You teach them to control their emotions while performing combat maneuvers." Emma's smile faltered. "Combat maneuvers? No, these are yoga poses. They are for health and wellness." "Warrior pose is not for warriors?" "That is just a name. It is called that because you feel strong while doing it, not because—" "And the death position?" Zarix pulled up a screen showing a recording of Emma's class. The cubs were lying on their backs, completely still. "You teach them to mimic death, a deception technique. That is called corpse pose, and it is for relaxation. You lie down and let your body rest. It is the easiest pose there is." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Nothing about your training is easy." "I watched my finest warriors suffer." Emma was starting to feel frustrated. "It is challenging, yes, but that is not the point. The point is to connect your mind and body, to find peace and—" "Peace!" Zarix stood up, his full height suddenly filling Emma's vision. "You teach combat positions under the disguise of peace. They are not combat positions. Show me your training then. Demonstrate what you teach." It was a command, not a request. Emma took a breath, trying to calm herself. There was clearly a misunderstanding happening. Maybe if she showed him properly, he would see that yoga was not what he thought it was. She stood and moved to the open space beside the desk. The guards at the door tensed, hands moving toward their weapons. "It is okay," Emma said. "I am just going to show some poses." She moved through a vinyasa flow, the same sequence she had taught the guards, each movement smooth and controlled, each breath steady. She flowed from downward dog to warrior 1 to warrior 2 to triangle pose. She demonstrated tree pose, holding it perfectly still. Then she moved to the floor for pigeon pose, stretching her hip, then switched to the other side. "You see," she said, settling into child's pose. "These are stretches and balancing exercises, nothing combative about them." "You move like water," Vornak said from the doorway. Emma had not heard him enter, like a trained fighter avoiding strikes. "I am not avoiding anything. I am flowing through poses." Vornax approached and played a video on his datapad. It showed Emma teaching, but now he paused and highlighted certain moments. "Here. This position gives you perfect sight lines in all directions while presenting a minimal target profile. Here, this pose allows rapid directional changes. This one builds grip strength for close combat." Emma stared at the screen. He was describing yoga poses like military tactics. "And the breathing exercises," Vornax continued. "Teaching the younglings to remain calm under stress, to control their heart rate during exertion. These are sniper techniques." "They are meditation techniques." "Then explain," Zarek said quietly. "If these are your peaceful practices, what are your warrior practices?" Emma froze. The question hung in the air like a blade. "What do you mean? Your species has combat training, yes? All species do. If this intense physical discipline is for peace, what do humans do to prepare for war?" Emma's mind raced. She thought about human martial arts, military training, combat sports. She thought about Krav Maga, boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. She thought about boot camps and special forces training, and she realized how this looked. "We have those too," she admitted slowly. "But they are separate. We do not confuse them. Yoga is for wellness. Fighting is for fighting." "Your species can separate them?" Zarek sounded genuinely confused. "Your warriors train for peace and for war at different times, using different techniques?" "Yes, they are completely different disciplines." The commander and captain exchanged a look that Emma could not read. "For Carthaxians," Zarek explained, "all physical training is combat training. We do not have exercises that are not connected to battle readiness. The concept of training the body without training for war is alien to us." Emma suddenly understood. Oh no. You thought I was teaching the cubs how to fight?" "Yes. And when the adults wanted to learn, you thought I was spreading human combat techniques?" "Yes. And when your guards could not do the poses, you thought humans were physically superior warriors in disguise?" "Yes." Emma sat down on the floor, suddenly exhausted. "This is a complete mess." "Indeed," Zarek agreed. He sounded almost amused. "Ambassador Kriksta will find this very entertaining. We need to fix this. I need to explain properly. Can you call a meeting? I will make a presentation about Earth wellness practices and show you they are not military training." "That would be wise," Zarek said, "because currently, half my command staff believes humans have been infiltrating our station with secret combat instructors." "I teach yoga," Emma practically shouted. "I have a certificate and everything." Vornax tilted his head. "What is a certificate?" Emma put her face in her hands. This was going to take a while to sort out. But in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered, "At least they think humans are impressive now. That has to count for something." The conference room was packed. Every senior officer on the station attended, along with diplomatic staff from 3 different species. Ambassador Kriksta sat in the front row, looking far too amused. Emma stood at the front with her presentation loaded on a screen, feeling like she was defending a thesis. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice only slightly shaky. "I understand there has been some confusion about the yoga program, and I want to clear everything up." She clicked to the first slide, which showed a serene image of a human doing tree pose on a beach at sunset. Yoga is an ancient human practice over 5,000 years old. It originated in India, on Earth, as a spiritual and physical discipline aimed at achieving inner peace and physical health. The Carthaxians stared at the image. One officer raised a hand. "This human is training alone? No instructor or combat partner?" "Correct. Yoga is often practiced alone. It is personal development, not combat training." Another slide appeared, showing a class of elderly humans doing gentle chair yoga. Yoga is practiced by humans of all ages and physical conditions. These humans are over 70 years old. They are not training for combat. They are maintaining their health and mobility. Commander Zarix leaned forward. "But your warriors also practice this, correct?" "Some do, yes. But not as warrior training. They do it for the same reason anyone does: flexibility, stress relief, injury prevention." "Injury prevention is combat training," an officer muttered. Emma took a deep breath. "Let me show you something else." She pulled up a video of a human martial arts class. The contrast was stark. People in protective gear, striking and kicking, clearly training to hurt each other. This is human combat training. This is Taekwondo, a Korean martial art. Notice the difference? Protective equipment, aggressive movements, practicing strikes and blocks. This is designed for fighting. She switched back to a yoga video. This is yoga. No protective equipment, no strikes. No combat partner. The only person you are working with is yourself. The room was silent. She could see the officers trying to reconcile what they were seeing. "Now let me show you why the confusion happened." Emma pulled up the side-by-side comparisons that Vornax had made. Captain Vornax interpreted yoga poses as combat positions. I can understand why, but the purpose is completely different. She pointed to warrior pose. In combat, this stance would be about preparing to strike or defend. In yoga, it is about building leg strength and improving balance. The external shape is similar, but the intention is opposite. HFY spoke up. "Emma, perhaps you could explain why humans created such intense physical practices that are not for combat. This concept is difficult for us to understand." Emma thought about how to explain it. "Humans are complicated. We have great capacity for violence, yes, but we also have great capacity for peace. We needed ways to channel our physical energy and discipline ourselves that were not about hurting others. Yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, these practices help us be better humans, not better fighters. But you could use the strength and flexibility from yoga in combat," an officer pointed out. "You could use strength from carrying groceries in combat too," Emma replied. "That does not make shopping a combat training exercise. Any physical fitness can theoretically help in a fight, but that is not why we do it." Commander Zarix stood. "The human makes a fair point. We have been interpreting her actions through our own cultural lens. For us, all strength is warrior strength. For humans, it seems strength has many purposes." "Exactly," Emma said, relieved that someone was getting it. "However," Zarix continued, and Emma's relief died, "this raises a concerning question. If humans can develop such discipline and physical prowess for peaceful purposes, what are they capable of when they do train for war?" The room murmured in agreement. Emma realized she had accidentally made humanity seem more intimidating, not less. "That is not the point of this presentation," she said weakly. HFY stood up, scales rippling with what Emma now recognized as laughter. "My friends, I think we have learned something valuable today. Humans are not trying to infiltrate us with combat training. They are simply trying to help, and in the process, They have reminded us that strength without purpose is just violence. Strength with purpose can be anything, including peace. The ambassador looked at Emma. Your work with the younglings has been remarkable. They are calmer, healthier, and happier. That is not the result of combat training. That is the result of good teaching and care. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, Ambassador. However, Crixtha continued with a glint in their eye, I think we should update our orientation materials about humans. Harmless is clearly not accurate. Perhaps complicated would be better. The room filled with the hissing sound that passed for Carthaxian laughter. Over the following weeks, things settled into a new normal. Emma continued teaching the cubs, and the classes remained popular. The elite guards continued their training, too, their pride refusing to let them quit, even though they were terrible at it. Slowly, painfully, they improved. More importantly, they began to understand. Vornax was the first to have the revelation. During Savasana, the final resting pose, something clicked in his mind. For the first time since his youth, his mind was completely quiet. No battle readiness, no tactical assessment, no vigilance, just breath and stillness. It terrified him, and then it freed him. I understand now, he told Emma after class one day. This is not weakness. This is a different kind of strength. Yes, Emma said, smiling. Yes, exactly. The news about the yoga program spread beyond the station. Other diplomatic outposts heard about the human who taught Carthaxian warriors to be flexible. Emma received requests to teach at stations across the sector. The Galactic Wellness Committee, which Emma had not known existed, sent her a formal invitation to develop a cross-species yoga program. You are famous, Marcus told her one evening in the embassy lounge. The human who accidentally scared the galaxy's greatest warriors by doing stretches. Emma laughed. That is not how I plan to make a name for myself. Are you going to take the other teaching positions? I think so. If they want to learn, I want to teach. She looked out the window at the stars. Besides, apparently we humans need to show the galaxy that we are not just complicated. We are also kind. 6 months later, human yoga instructors worked on 17 different stations throughout the sector. Military analysts from 4 different species continued to debate whether yoga was a covert combat system. Several academic papers were published on the human duality, warriors of peace. And on the original station, Emma taught her evening class to a mixed group of cubs, adults, and guards. They moved through sun salutations together, breathing as one, finding strength in stillness. In the observation room, Commander Zarix watched with Vornax beside him. Do you still believe they are dangerous? Zarix asked quietly. Vornax was silent for a moment, watching the human guide a tiny cub into tree pose, her patience infinite, her kindness genuine. Yes, he said finally, but not in the way I thought. A species that can choose peace when they have the capacity for war, that chooses to teach rather than conquer. That is the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Why? Because it means they have evolved beyond us. Vornax's scales rippled, not with fear, but with respect. They have the choice. We are born warriors. Humans can be warriors or peacemakers, and they choose based on what is needed. That is true strength. Zarix considered this. Then perhaps we should learn more from them than just the stretching exercises. Perhaps we should, Vornax agreed. Down in the training hall, Emma had no idea she had just become the center of a philosophical debate about the nature of strength and civilization. She was too busy helping a guard named Thexil finally master crow pose after months of trying. I did it! Thexil exclaimed, balanced perfectly on his hands, his massive body held aloft with pure technique and determination. You did, Emma cheered. I knew you could. How does it feel? Thexil held the pose for a few more seconds, then carefully came down. He looked at his hands, then at Emma, then at his hands again. "Like I can do anything," he said with wonder. Emma smiled. That was the magic of yoga. Not combat training, not warrior discipline, just the simple joy of discovering your body could do things you never thought possible. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked the class. "Same time tomorrow," they chorused back. And somewhere on Earth, in a quiet yoga studio in Mumbai, an elderly teacher smiled without knowing why, feeling that somehow, somewhere, the ancient practice she loved had just made the universe a little bit better.